Right. Woo. How many more presentations do we have?
I've been to I've been to Brooklyn many times. My friends
Yeah.
are, you know, Bay Ridge.
I do.
It took
I didn't want
hours.
me to record
The
this.
train broke
Oh,
because of
the R train and N train and U.
Oh my
and
goodness,
D
I'll
train.
never go there.
It's not a bad
Oh,
place. Bay Ridge is not a bad place, but
oh
it's
my
slower
goodness.
to get there. Slower to
It took me 2 hours because of that
get
breakdown.
H2O Enterprise Hard. I saw. I feel like all these are like generic AI software, and then it's like this is how you fit into your financial services use case.
That's exactly right. You're
Yeah.
totally right. Because we
I,
want to have multiple customer bases, but nobody wants to, you don't want to hear what we're doing with, like, let's say the medical field. It's not gonna trigger.
yeah,
This is relatable,
for the
but
finance field, right?
it's
It's
pretty
like
universal, the solution. It's a
Gotta go
platform
into
play,
there.
right? But
yeah,
we're gonna give it to the lens of use cases you understand. Otherwise, you're gonna be not paying attention, right?
yep.
You start talking about, outcomes in medical events, you're not gonna care.
I think I have to go into their.
Every company wants the maximum customer base that they
I
want.
think so.
Freeze me,
That's
have
the
to go
game
to
we're
their
playing. Because
tribe.
By the
our
way,
platform is very universal, and our
Where?
claim to
sharing
fame is
your
like we can
screen
fit in
with
any
everybody else
ecosystem,
meeting.
on-prem, air-gapped, or any cloud. So
I
pretty universal, right?
Only,
Because I'm
only,
seeing
only.
it.
Got it.
No,
Yeah,
because like I don't try
understood.
when I see it.
Oh,
It's the name
wow,
of the
so I
game,
don't have to
really.
do anything. This is
If you're
Yeah.
too niche and too narrow, then you're gonna be super
Well, no,
expensive.
now it's not. Yeah. So
You
Right.
have to be super expensive because how else would you live,
The
right?
only
Yep.
change
The-
my
right. That's the
other
whole point,
meetings
right?
on
The whole
it
point
are
is
current.
get your core, expand as much as you can, right? And then and then you want to keep your market share by specializing in the niche fields and like making sure that people can't have it, can't do business without it.
Exactly.
But initially, you grow your business being as generic as possible, grabbing as much market share, and then becoming unique.
It's the name of the game. We're still here 11 years later, so we're doing something right.
Just one second, I'm trying to get there.
There's a lot of companies that are like I don't know about, and they're always useful. But like I don't know who keeps track of this. I mean, the U.S. government has a database.
Oh shit, Slack. Okay.
That's
That
about it.
part,
You know what?
the
Sorry,
math
I
part, what
shared
we do,
it.
we make it open source.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
it's
think that's the right thing to do, and then we
Then
build
And I'll
solutions around
add it right in.
open source architecture.
Yes.
One slide.
Yeah.
Oh.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll throw it in there. Oh, I'm gonna grab this.
Are these like so? The reason why like all these exist is because they integrate with the cloud providers.
Exactly right.
That's the whole
So
point.
I almost view what we're doing as a specialized augmentation around what everyone else is doing, right?
Yeah.
So certain things we can do faster, better, cheaper.
Yep.
But if you're already using other LLMs, for example,
Yep.
use them, bring them right in.
Do those services have to go into like so? It's like this, right? People choose their cloud and they go into your
With
platform,
ROI,
Correct.
right? But like, can you use this without a cloud?
Yes, you can use it on-prem, you can use it even air-gapped. with
Got it. Oh yeah, yeah.
air-gapped
You already
applications.
told that in the beginning.
So yes.
Got it. Makes sense.
And
Yeah.
if some of our customers are multi-cloud.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. A
it
lot of
makes
people.
it easy to port what they're doing. So the workload can be the same
By the time
across
they get
those
the
multiple
camera,
environments.
they'll-
You're
Yep.
just
'Cause that's
accessing
what-
data
what
different,
he's
or maybe you're
up to do.
accessing a different
You might be
LLM.
using the camera for
But
free
you can
anyway,
have some,
so-
most of the financial
What's
services
that?
companies want a
Your
standardized
camera's not here,
process.
it's
Yep.
just
And they want it
Exactly.
governed and
themselves,
explainable,
so-
right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's kind of what we've added to the LLMs that are in the space.
Understood. Got it. Makes sense. I.
Okay, we're done. We got it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So they have this also to increase both AWS, hopefully increase AWS market share and your and H2O.
Correct, because the workloads can be balanced and then the opportunity to bring in, we have like a small language model too. So some of our customers will use a range of LLMs with small language models to come out with the right outcome.
Yep.
It's like a recipe you're
Jumping over
making.
to yours, but I'm
So this
gonna
is just more
use
ingredients to the AWS.
Understood.
recipe.
Um,
Okay.
Let me know if I can help with
Yeah, I
anything.
know. Let's see what's. I think they're waiting for the recording. Here, he's
Gonna walk
come
me
back
with
in
it, yeah.
with it. So I'm just gonna jump out of it.
I'll just hold it there.
Yeah. So if they want me to come back, I'll come back, but I think Shree's gonna walk right here
Yeah.
when they bring the camera back in. So if they need me, I'll come back. You don't have the camera. That's funny. Does anybody need water? Here.
I'm good, thanks.
I'm not presenting, but our team.
You're sitting on the.
I know, I hate that we are on camera right now.
Where's the cap? Oh, it's in front.
I think there's
Yeah,
one there.
that's-
There's one there.
Wow.
There's definitely one there because I saw it myself. But oh man.
Not why?
No, it's not that. There's one that's always at the, there's one that's aiming at the speaker, right? So,
I think the speaker is also on. Doesn't it?
oh,
Yep.
I see.
Everything is green.
I hope they put you on this meeting.
Do you? I don't.
You said you just started, right?
I live in New York, so.
Well, the CEO founder is here, so that's what we're going to
Yeah,
put on, but
yeah.
any of us can jump in, no
Oh,
worries.
interesting.
She is.
Are you working
is,
with LLMs, Kevin?
All right, sometimes, not all the times.
He's very much in the middle of an interview.
Okay, great, we can get going.
It's actually nice today.
Sure.
Weather.
Yeah.
Fix
Awesome.
this up.
It's a complete production.
The guy has camera ready all the time and ready to go.
My dad and Chris is this whole look at the setup.
Looks
Yes.
very good.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they're still going?
It's a complete setup.
Okay. So we're not gonna be recorded. That's fine.
No, there is one at least.
Yes.
Charm-
Oh, there's one? Okay,
Charm
good,
is-
good,
That's the
good.
one that was
Charm
used
is up and-
first time.
What would you like to do? Get started?
Let's get going.
Let's get going.
All right, folks.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Not a problem. Not a
Send
problem.
this to myself so I can show it to you.
I love when we flash this password out there because we haven't changed it since 2019.
Oh,
Clearly, our security protocols.
Well, now you.
Is it because?
So.
Why are you always a buzzkill?
Slightly very secure.
I know.
So this is for guest networks.
Yeah, that's a guest networking.
I see
I think
us.
so. I'm sharing my screen, but
You and I both.
No, you're not.
strange, a minute ago we were,
Oh.
right?
Yeah.
Should we?
Because I'm not even seeing it here.
Chris?
Okay, just one second.
You-
So I
you
need to
can
go
hear
in.
me?
How are you? Long time.
Oh my goodness, I was wondering about you.
Yes, it has
I'm
been a
plugged in.
while.
I know.
Chicago,
You're
California.
here?
I am here. Yes.
Oh, we used to text
Well, it used to go right there.
Yeah, well,
You want me to go into
I
Shine?
believe it.
Happy to see you.
Because a minute ago, it was
Yeah.
all I did was,
Yeah.
You need to go to
I
Charm.
know.
I didn't have to a
remember you
minute
as-
ago.
I
Really?
thought you.
Yeah.
I saw it
After
for
you
when
She
you
saw-
saw it a
eight,
couple
like
minutes
till
ago.
8, right?
So
Yes,
that's
no,
Yeah.
it's correct. Yes.
I think that
Yeah,
was
I
where
remember
he
you-
had controlled
So,
it.
so when did you
Very
come last?
strange.
October, because
November.
you said
November. I think.
November? Oh, good.
You're in New York, right?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
we'll definitely catch up.
We should catch up in.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I
It worked a
saw
second
the
ago.
iPhone.
Oh.
Yes.
I sent you the Christmas
I saw that.
greeting, remember? Yeah,
Yes,
New Year's. Okay. I can't believe it.
Hey,
I'll
you-
see
There
you
it is.
around then.
All right.
It's
Yes.
coming. Yeah.
Do you need
See,
a time?
it's down here now.
Yeah, it's gonna share in 1 second.
Okay. Ah, there we go.
All right. That's sick. Oh, I'm just gonna check time to see if there are any people in the waiting room.
Yeah, just tell me when to start and we'll rock and roll.
And is audio working? Because I got a note that.
Well, we didn't, it should come from the room. That's what happened.
Must
this
have been
morning.
muted. when we were doing something.
Yeah, so I'm muted here.
That is live.
No, no.
Like
I'll
here.
ask it.
Okay.
Or do you want me to have my audio on or it picks it up in the room?
We're not
What-
that
what
intuitive
he
yet.
did was
We're not there yet. Maybe you won't turn on the audio.
So Gohan basically had the audio on
Right.
the
I could
laptop,
hear you.
and all of this was
Can
basically
hear when he's talking.
muted.
Oh, so I should turn it on my
Let me see
laptop?
if I can.
Okay, I can do that.
And then this will be muted.
Sure. It's on this screen.
Don't touch. We're good.
Okay,
No, no,
wonderful.
This is, no.
Got it. Everything good? Okay, good.
Don't get too close, there's echo.
Hey, everybody, welcome back from lunch. We're now in the H2O AI session. Thank you so much, AWS, for having us here. Very excited to have the opportunity to speak with everyone. I know we all went around and did intros. We're just going to skip that. I'll just say I'm Mark Lockbeeler, enterprise architect, based out of New Jersey. And I've been in the technology space for a very long time. And I've been over here at H2O almost 2 years. But I've known H2O for over a decade. And so this is the agenda that we're going to walk through. Now, the exciting part here is that our CEO is going to walk in a minute, and we're going to turn it over to him. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go give you an intro. How many folks are familiar with H2O AI in the room? Okay, so this will be I'll give an introduction to the company. We'll talk about a very exciting topic, converging generative and predictive AI. We're going to go into an agentics demo on our platform. So that'll be the highlight. Hopefully I'll get there quickly. And then we'll talk about financial services usage cases today. We'll also throw in some telco usage case information. And then we'll look at the architecture. We're running our managed cloud purely on AWS. That's where our managed cloud runs. So if a customer comes to H2O and says, you host it for me, you run it for me, everything's on AWS. We're in the marketplace on AWS, and we are working really hard with the AWS partner team, thank you, to get our competency back to par. We've been there before. We're going to bring it back up, and we're going to exceed that. And so that's where we are with the relationship. We've actually been around over a decade, 12 plus years. And so if you take a look at H2O, we started in 2012. We started as open source distributed machine learning library, H2O3. And this was proliferated in the market. Many banks, many customers using us around the world, around the globe. And so we've got leadership today in the number of quadrants. So, you know, whether it's the Forrester or CB Insight, best large language model, application development, Gartner quadrants for data science and machine learning. It's very exciting. We're in a lot of the top quadrant leadership. And so we're out of Mountain View. So we brought to market H2O3, distributed machine learning. A lot of banks using it for churn, fraud, cross-sell, upsell, et cetera. And then we came out with world-class driverless AI, AutoML. So feature engineering on steroids, all done without, just dropping your data in, and coming out with a world-class model one that top data scientists in the banks and the telcos and the large companies really can take and mature, or usually it might win a champion challenger. So, it doesn't always win for every usage case, but most usage cases, and it's just an incredible product. And that was the predictive side of the house. And here's just a list of some of the banks that are our customers today. And Carrie's been working with the banks. You want to make any comments around the banks? No, Carrie's not going to comment. Carrie, I have the pleasure of working with Carrie, and she leads a lot of our large accounts, and especially in the market and financial services and beyond. We have some of the best data scientists in the world. How many people are familiar with Kaggle?
Yes.
Everybody familiar with Kaggle? So at one, we had the #1 Kaggle Grandmaster in the world, the #3 Kaggle Grandmaster in the world, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we've had 40 plus at one time of the top Kaggle Grandmasters in the world. And the most exciting thing for me is they're now building our world-class Agentics Gen AI platform. They're building fine-tuning capabilities that the folks like AT&T are using. You'll see this in a second, to fine-tune some of the small language models that they've built and we've built in our engineering team. So we've got some of the best in the world. And what this means is when you as a customer need to get over that last mile and get into production, we have some of the best talent on the planet to help you do that, if that makes sense. And we love partnering with our customers and helping them solve the really hard problems. So that's who we are. And that team's spread around globally. So here's a slide that the main theme here is bringing together the world's best predictive and generative into a single platform to give more lift to a usage case or a solution to add more value for the customer. We see a lot of the startup Gen AIs out there, and they're not bringing the traditional machine learning. And we know that there are a lot of usage cases that are pure traditional machine learning. There are a lot that could take advantage of generative. But when you bring them both together in the same place, and then you can get really good value out to your customers. So we're supercharging that future. This is very, very exciting. If you go to Hugging Face, everybody has been to Hugging Face?
Yes.
No? Okay.
I know about it.
So out in Hugging Face, you can find an H2O setup out. We're out on Hugging Face, but there's a Agentics leaderboard called Gaia, G-A-I-A. And we've been leading that leaderboard with our Agentics platform since December. So that means that we're beating Google, we're beating OpenAI, we're beating DeepSeek, we're beating everyone at providing the best Agentics overall framework. And that's what I'm going to demo for you. And we're very, very proud of that. And that's not easy to do. And by the way, when we run our platform, we use the best model for the job. So if we reach into AWS Bedrock and we use Claude 3.5 Sonnet or 3.7 now, or we reach in and we use any of the models that AWS has out there, our platform can consume those, but we can also bring down the open source LLMs, and we also have our own small language models that we can host and provide a private deployment for our customer on a private VPC on AWS or in a private cloud. So our platform is very agile, Kubernetes based. And so we built this Agentics into our RAG/Gen AI platform, and I'll show you that. We're going to show a quick video here. This video came from NVIDIA GTC last week, so kudos to our marketing team. We've already got a video that we can talk about, but this is CBA, Commonwealth Bank of Australia, and this is the Chief Data Analytics Officer, Andrew McCullen, and let's let him talk a little bit for a second. Whoops.
We call our customer engagement engine. So we went from having a few thousand models running over 157 billion data points in real time. So that in every engagement that we have with you, we know who you are. We're doing the right things. The service experience is great. It's all real time across all our channels, all the different relationships that you might have with us. We've gone from thousands of models to multiple thousands on trillions of data points, working with H2O.ai to be able to improve both our experience, but you mentioned fraud. In fraud and scams over the last 12 months, we've reduced fraud losses by over 30% for our customers. We've reduced scam losses by over 70%.
So this is one of our customers and one of his testimonials talking about how he works with H2O and has been working with H2O, and they're AI first bank, and they're not waiting for anyone. They're leading the charge. And so we're really proud to have them as a customer. So that's what that's all about. This is just a slide that backs that video up, which basically shows that we're working in fraud and compliance, customer 360, customer personalization, et cetera. And it's a very, very exciting partnership. They also invest in us.
And I would say we would see these use cases repeated across our banking customers, but they're the ones that allow us to share the information. So
Yeah.
we can reference them, right?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So yeah,
It's never
absolutely.
easy, right? You know.
Yeah, it's exciting. Thank you, Carrie. So this is an interview that I would like to share as well. And of course, Andrew's in it again, but Sri, who should be here in a second, our CEO's in it, and our founder, along with AT&T. This is the Cube interview.
We have a very, like, we're building on like a very rich history of traditional AI with generative AI and agentic AI, and we have a very disciplined program. So we take use cases across the company, we bring those to a central pool. We evaluate those with a very close peer of mine on the business side, and we make sure we do a business case, and we make sure we work on the ones that matter the most to the company. And by doing that, we can assess the cost and the return and that value. One thing we can say right now, I'll talk about it in our panel tomorrow, but last year, this is kind of, I think, rare in the space. We returned 2x ROI, free cash flow impacting ROI on every dollar that we spent with generative AI last year. And so that was a 1-year return.
Wow.
These are 3-year business cases. So, it's a very important lever we have at AT&T.
I just got to call that out for a second. There's a lot of companies still trying to achieve sizable ROI in a few instances or a couple different MVPs. You're able to do that on $2 for every $1 spent on generative AI, if I just heard you correctly?
Last year.
Wow. That is very impressive. I can imagine that's only going to accelerate.
Oh, yeah. These are 3-year business cases. So even that 2x will grow, and then we're investing more. So a testament to the team at AT&T.
My bad, she's a totally different person. It's been a long day, I'm going blind.
So this is Andy Marcus on the left-hand side, Chief Data and Analytics Officer from AT&T, a big customer of ours.
And another partner that allows us to share their usage
case. Yes, and another partner that allows us to use their usage case. So let me go back to sharing what's going on with this thing. There we go. Let's go to slideshow. So just a couple highlights there, very recent from last week. This is just sharing some of the different production usage cases we have out in with our customers. You can see an in-store sales assistant. There's an HR and IT support system, procurement GPT, where we're comparing 2 different contracts. You get a new contract, it's a 3-year. You get the new one, you compare the 2, you see the diff. We've got a complaint summarizer if I have time to show, or if Sri gets in, I won't. And then, of course, fraud and et cetera. So personalization. One of the ones that we worked with AT&T on is distilling small language model. So basically fine-tuning our Danube small language model for call center classification. I'm not going to drink. Yes.
Question there. Are you guys integrated with Amazon Connect?
So Amazon Connect, can you give me I don't think we are right this minute, but
The reason I bring that up is it's related to the second point that you just talked about, gathering, data from IT support and call center agents.
yeah.
Amazon Connect actually does that. So it actually summarizes a bunch of conversations.
Okay.
So it's customer support there. So if you plug into that ecosystem, maybe you can leverage the data that we collect through Amazon Connect. So I was just curious.
It's a great idea, and I don't believe, I'm very sure we're not.
Right.
But I can bring that back to our support team, and I'll also connect with your team and see how we can have a further discussion.
We're on the same team, by the way.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay,
We
thank
want to be
you.
on your team too, so.
Yeah,
We're on the same game.
we're all one big team.
We're all one big team.
So if you think about it, we brought up our company on predictive, and now we're incredibly excited about the generative side of the house, and I'm highlighting that our Agentix is leading the Gaia leaderboard on Hugging Face, and I really did want to give a demo out. But what I'm going to do let's go ahead and do a demo. So let's go right into our cloud, and let me make this full screen. So when you go onto AWS and you go into our managed cloud, you get a full user experience, and depending on your persona, you would be able to leverage different components of the architecture or different products or solutions. And in this case, I'm on the home page, and we do have an app store, and in that app store, you can consume solutions that may have been built on top of our APIs and our platform, so we make it super easy to do this. But let me go over and show you our chat first H2O Enterprise H2O GPT. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at, ignore the warning, we're looking at a chat first interface. I'm going to turn agents on, and I'm just going to run a couple different, I've already got the questions here. So let me, instead of having to type, I'll copy a question over. And so this first question is just kind of a general for fun. All I'm doing is turning agents on, and I'm going to say, make a chart that shows the top pop music artists so far in 2025. Let's just go ahead and see what this platform can do for us. So what's going to happen is, if you're familiar with Agentix, we're going to do a planning exercise. There's going to be an agent that does a planning exercise. And that planning exercise is going to determine what other agents am I going to use to try to solve this problem, okay? So that's what it's doing right now, and it's going out to do that. And depending on how many people are hitting it in this test lab, hopefully it'll come back, or we'll go use a different system. But it should have come back by now, because this is a real quick one. So it's going to plan out, it's going to leverage, it's going to decide what agents to use. Then it's going to iterate and try to solve the problem. And then it's going to relook at, okay, is this result, is this outcome good enough yet? Or do I want to iterate a little bit further to improve it? And so that's kind of what's going to happen. And I'm not sure why it's not coming back. But yes, go ahead.
Can I ask a question in the meantime while we are?
Yeah.
So, of the multiple agents that it goes and distributes the tasks to,
yeah,
how would it determine which agent is? Because it looks like it only asks the question of one, or does it ask of everyone and then evaluate the response?
It's a really good question, and I'm getting some feedback, but that's okay. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you the answer. So when I peel back the Agentix, I'm going to show you all of the agents. I'm going to show you how it planned out, and then we'll come back. So here I have a different dev environment, and I'm going to run the same question because the other one was so that's how fast it should have come back as far as starting to plan things out. So this one. So apologize for the live demo challenge.
Hey, those are the demo guys.
Yeah, we ran out of space. This morning I ran out of space over there. People were pounding on it really hard. So what we're doing is we're actually going through, and if we take a look at what it's doing, you can show the thoughts. At a high level, it created it created a chart, executed a block of Python code, created a bar chart, etc. So it's finished, and basically it says that Taylor Swift is leading the rankings so far this year. By the way, she led last year too. No surprise, but Ice Spice is up there as well. Now, let's do one more question, then we'll look at the configuration. So this is just a kind of a fun question, but how about if we said something a little bit more challenging that related to financial services? Because probably that's what we'd like to do. So let me paste this, and I don't stop that.
Are these all using H2O, your own models?
We use the best model for the job, and I'm going to show you that answer as well and as soon as I run this. So this question is, using today's date, write Python code to plot Tesla versus Meta stock price gains year to date versus time per week, and save the plot to a file named stock_gains.png. Now, while we're doing that, we're going to answer some questions. So we're going to go back to the configuration while it's working over on this side, and we're going to go up to config. And so one of the questions that was asked is, which LLM are you using? And this, for some reason, it's trying to multitask. Let's kind of look at the agents that we have out of the box. Now, what we've learned over time is more agents is not better. Okay, more agents is not better. But we do have a planning agent, and then we have a number of agents inside that the planner would decide to use. And so in this case, you can see that maybe, well, let me tell you one of the agents. One of the agents will build a machine learning model with our driverless AI. So if you said, can you build a churn machine learning model using this data set? It would say yes, and then we'd go over and use our driverless AI and auto-generate a model for you and bring that output back. But some of this is using Yahoo Finance, some of it's searching Wikipedia, if you allow that. Some of it is plotting code. There's a lot of different agents that are running. And so this one takes a little bit more horsepower. So we're going to kind of go back and let this thing kind of work through its gyrations. So there were a couple questions. As far as the large language models, this platform, we can host. I was going to answer your question on this. We could host and deploy models into the platform.
Yeah, so you can bring them in.
We can bring them in from open source, whether they're fine-tuned or right, a Llama 70B, et cetera.
And then do you guys like run a benchmark to see which one is, like, do you run a bunch of tests to see which one is better, or is that just sort of like up to you?
Yeah. So I'm going to let Sri come on in, but let me let Sri come in because so basically we have an entire MRM strategy around generative AI, obviously around predictive AI, and that in that strategy, we basically do eval and leaderboards for your usage case. Okay, so there's a lot of leaderboards out there for LLMs, et cetera, but we're doing eval, and we're trying to select the best model for the job.
Got it.
Whether it's open source or proprietary.
Do you give customers that flexibility to pick the LLM, or do you guys?
Yeah.
We auto route.
Okay.
And
no, we actually have a router.
Okay.
We're a complete router. We're the first one to build a router for customers.
Okay.
Based on price, accuracy, and latency.
Okay.
Actually, I'll show it.
Yeah.
Second on Chime. Yeah, I think basically, Bedrock, right? Sort of.
You don't have to go into Chime. You just have to put this in. It'll work.
Yeah, we can go on scope. Just plug it in. I think it should show.
You don't have
Chime
to go.
doesn't work?
You don't have to go on the Chime.
Yeah.
I was on Chime earlier.
Right. This will plug in and work to Chime right there, if you'd like.
I think the challenge is to see Chime.
So for the folks on the phone, entered the room is Sri Ambati, the H2O CEO founder.
Welcome.
Thank you. I thought I had yeah, got it. Sorry, the video interview. dominated. It was a good interviewer. So
Turn on the recording. Use this.
We're recording on the phone.
contact center agents for different kind of, I would say, blending, right? Sort of how do you process documents and so on and so forth. So I can use this as start mirroring.
Yep. No, it's
So
Oh, big.
now you can see it.
Yeah.
One of the things that customers ask us, right? Sort of, okay, so I mean, it's interesting. A lot of audience in the room know us from our open source work, from machine learning and predictive AI. And so what we've done here, as you can see, actually here you can see a powerful use case where you take the Kaggle Walmart weekly sales data and try to predict their sales, right? So the weekly sales. A lot of our innovation over the last decade has been captured as a single simple agent that you can call from here, right? So I mean, for agentic AI, right? So the superpower is coding, right? So you're able to essentially build a very powerful coding and data science agent that through the chain of thought, self-check itself to bust any hallucinations in that chain of thought and take the right paths so you can essentially get the response that you're expecting. And I think in this particular case, you can see kind of the outcome is really powerful because not only are you getting all the charts and predictions that driverless AI would make, but you're also able to tell a narrative. You can find seasonality in your data. It can tell a story that is left to interpretation in the data science tool chain. So generative AI, predictive AI convergence, superpower for our customers. Another superpower for our customers is distilling and fine tuning. Large language models are expensive, right? So, especially if it's a repetitive task that you're, it's a call center classification problem. A purpose-built SLM will outshine both in accuracy and latency than a very large language model, and of course on cost. About 10 times cheaper to do a purpose-built SLM that solves one business problem than to have token-based pricing on a large language model. And now this model can be hosted inside an AWS virtual private cloud of your choice. As a result, you essentially your prompts never leave your data center. And that's a superpower that we, especially in regulated industry like banking, you cannot send your data to on prompts to OpenAI. I think that's kind of something definitely through Bedrock we can enable that.
So for domain-specific knowledge, do you split the knowledge base as an input, or do you guys have an ability to actually input the data directly on your platform?
We have. I think the Enterprise LLM Studio, most of our customers end up using us to do synthetic data generation and labeling and then distilling, right? So that the pre-ML phase, pre-fine-tuning phase.
Yes, you reduce one hop instead of using another tool. Got it. Okay.
And historically, if we were focused on ML, the math,
Yeah.
and let data engineering be part of Snowflake or a Databricks or.
Now you have to marry both.
But what we've done now is actually we yielded the road for LLMs.
Yeah.
We built our own LLMs, SLMs, Danube, Mississippi, multi-models from visual language models.
Yeah.
But what we've done is essentially focus on the end-to-end. So that end-to-end experience, whether role-based, access of your content, right? Sort of all of those pieces, kind of guardrails, right? So we built guardrails, we built kind of ability to kind of do the pre-data prep phase, agents to design agents, right? So all of the kind of this so the time to first demo in generative AI is very fast, right? But from demo to production, that last mile is really 99 miles, right? And so customers are looking for a partner who can walk those miles with them. I was saying earlier in one of the interviews, right? The average tenure, Deloitte did a study of the tenure of a chief data officer, CDAO or CDOs, is less than 9 months. And right, so and except the anomalies, most of our CDAOs have come and talked to us. Seems like we are survivors, right? Because they actually have delivered value. So we have customers who not only are CDAOs, they went on to become CEO of their companies or chief AI officers, right? I think, and they've gone to new places and taken us with them. And I think that's a testimony to kind of the customer obsession the team has. We have the world's largest set of cattle grandmasters in any given company or continent. They are all obsessed to improve our products, but also helping our customers solve problems. And that's a very key differentiator. I know AWS is also a customer obsessed.
I think that's where you're partnering with us. So good. Yeah.
That's right.
Fantastic.
But I think in banking, especially, right, sort of, I know we were just talking about MRM. Let me show some of that as well, right? So, for example, this particular document I was using earlier, it is that document out of the box in a RAG-like system. We create this topic clouds, and the topic clouds that are sparse, right? For example, this particular dot here is sparse. It doesn't have a lot of content. So if someone asks a deep question on what that is, even humans will hallucinate, right? So not just LLMs. And I think figuring out density of your document content or your collection content is a great predictor of what is likely to be a problematic piece of content that if someone lands a question on. And so some of our customers actually put guardrails to not answer those questions, or if they do want to cure that problem, they add more content that essentially makes that no longer a problem. So instead of preventing, we no longer can certify or validate conceptual soundness, but we can prevent or expose weakness of models. This is another tool where kind of looking at different issues in generative AI, whether it's model generation issues or model parse issues. We can actually look at different models, how they're doing, and compare and contrast them. So these are, again, EvalGPT. We have a very strong way to kind of look at evaluation frameworks for our own model picking, but also to help our customers pick the right LLM for the right problem. Oftentimes, eval first design is critical for generative AI because the RFP to test code is a simple place. We're working on some customers who are building RFP to test code. We're working with customers who are then building agents that can write the code, and agents that can deploy the Helm charts, and agents that can do the infosec. So the end-to-end software development lifecycle now looks more like it's no longer focused on building a good window. You're building the whole home or a big city, right? So that's how you can design software architectures that can cover the entire problem, not just the sub problem you're focused on. All right, I know we have a lot of questions, or we can continue to drive through the. How many of you here know how agents work? So I often find like there's a lot of jargon running around, right? Yeah. Sort of when we have a hands-on audience here, but sometimes just doing the basics, right? Sort of is useful, right? You probably have seen this demo. Is 3.8 greater than 3.1111? And this is ChatGPT, nothing special here, right? So this particular kind of is anticipating what you want to see. The 11111 is very large than 8, so maybe 3.8 is less than 3.111, right? Now, of course, if you use reasoning models, it will think through that problem. If you use an agent, what this does, anyone wants to guess? What this does is actually it writes a program that essentially builds the code for running the LLM, right? So for running against public. Let me just see. So what this is doing doing a Python code for that particular to solve that particular problem, and that Python code, as you know, if you write good code, it'll produce good results. There's no more kind of guesswork in this. So what this is doing is essentially converting. The LLMs are good at a lot of things, but they hallucinate a lot. right? So what this is doing is it's grounding an LLM in code, and not just code, but action running, executing the code. So you've now gotten a reasonably fair degree of accuracy on generative AI. But you also converted your generative large language model to an orchestrator, no longer the source of facts. It's an orchestrator, which is very good at code. Okay, great. It's also very good at web search. It's also very good at Wikipedia. It's also very good at steadily adding all these tools and service agents and task agents and registering these agents in an MCP so you can pull them out when you need model context protocol. So then you're going from code, search engine optimized websites to LLM optimized or generative AI optimized, agentic AI optimized code, right? So the code that's well documented for an agent to pick it up is going to win.
Right, can you switch to the second tab just to see the difference?
Which one?
The second tab where they're, I think it's wrong, right? Yeah, it's wrong because they're.
Your disbelief, sense of disbelief that a $1 billion model is unable to tell this correctly, right?
They still think
People follow the chair.
there are 2 R's in strawberry.
Yeah, sure. That's usually the other one, right? But they fix that. They fine tune the model.
Every so often when they come up with a new model, they always get the R's in strawberry.
Yeah, no. So I actually have to do like something like this, right? And then it fails. But really, they try to fix variations of that problem. So we kind
It's
of
always funny when they do that.
then we came up with a numeric answer, right? So yeah, so this is yeah. But I think the idea of using, I mean, once you know what it's at a fundamental level, it's coding, right? And once you write, then it's a matter of building good code.
Yeah. Where does it pull? So for this model, well, was it one of yours or is it like is it using a user's model?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
LLMs,
Oh yeah,
it's just
they do a test. There's a test.
actually you can see it. We can see this is using Claude Sonnet,
Okay, all right.
right?
Yes.
But you can ask it to use different models.
How about the agents? Do you build the agents from the ground up, like
Yeah.
on the fly, or do you have like I mean, I guess.
So we have a bunch of them.
Okay,
right?
These are all agents.
Yeah, we have a bunch of them.
Oh, I
But you
see.
can create your own.
Got it.
And like we have in the next version, which is not yet integrated. It's the pull requests are
Basically,
finished.
these are tool
You can
sets.
say build an agent here.
Correct, we didn't explain that, you're right.
Makes sense. Now I know what you're doing. So like basically, let's say you
Tools.
deselect all of them, right? Then it wouldn't have a if you deselect all the tools,
Yeah.
then it won't do any agent
That's right.
callback, right?
No, you can deselect, and then you probably get a very poor, right? A very poor version of it, right? We'll just get like it doesn't have coding agent.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, I was just curious.
We'll try to write a Python. Like it's still, I mean, Claude Sonnet without our coding is not too bad,
Okay.
right? But it doesn't know how to execute it. So if I give it like shell agent, right? Then it'll start coding, running it,
Got it.
right? We give it reasoning. You can give it Wikipedia, right? So you can give slowly image searches and steadily. So I mean, some of the Gaia benchmarks are actually 5-minute videos. Actually, I can do it even today, right? I can take a photo of this audience, and I was on the stage with 90,000 people last week in Dubai, right, 2 weeks ago, and I could upload the picture and count the number of children in the audience, number of empty chairs in the audience, because this vision tool is not too light. We also unified most of the search, right? So the idea is that you're basically steadily adding more capabilities to your AI, right? And then let's say you have a loan agent that is able to give you a claim rejection or acceptance agent. And you steadily add things that steadily become really superpowers for you. And that's kind of how you get to the full power.
Got it. Understood.
So yeah, I think this is just the beginning, tip of the iceberg, right? Sort of, because agents. So one of this was mentioning the other piece of what I was mentioning is that we have a pull request that's already in there. It says build an agent for doing X, right? That's agents to design an agent, right? And that just changes the game to kind of the next level.
Do you have to pay each agent separately, or what happens?
You tell us.
It depends. Or
This is the so no, I think like no, that's not the case. I think the way we designed it is the more you use, the more you save, right? You've heard that from Jensen.
I did
The
hear
more
that from
GPUs you use, the more you save.
the more you
We
buy, the
charge
more
by
you save.
GPUs. Sorry. I mean, Jensen invests in H2O, right? But I think the way I would look at it is that we charge by GPUs.
So now fine tuning using your model, then by doing that we break away from the OpenAI
Yes,
dependency basically, right?
that's right.
That's your big value add.
That's
there.
right. That's
And
right.
are you still limited to single step query in which you have to provide all the context in a single prompt?
Single
Step query in which where you have to provide all the context in a single prompt? Or
No, this is an API. So the whole thing is actually an API.
oh,
So you can, so what I'm showing is just a
yeah.
front end for a full-fledged, well-written, well-developed
Oh, okay.
API. Yeah, so you can actually build simple, like entire Jupyter notebooks of this and code. And, yeah. So most customers, like our users, use our API, which is similar to the OpenAI API. We support MCP as well, so you can then start using model context protocols. So you have different agents talk to different agents. The world has run out of tokens of humans talking to each other, right? So you're now using agents talking to agents as a new kind of synthetic data. Reasoning traces of different chain of thought that is failing, that helps us fine tune the agent to get better. So let's say your domain specific agent you're building in banking, that particular agent, if it made a lot, like you run it ATM machine, that you run it throughout the day, and the few times you made a mistake is very useful to learn. Right? So those kinds of things that basically become kind of new traces to improve LLMs from making mistakes. So I think this is when very few companies offer both distill and fine tune evaluation of your copilots. If you're widely deployed with copilots today, there is no one to keep. There are no brakes on that car, right? So we can allow you with our MRM for Gen AI put brakes on that car, right? So you can get solid at least some level of safety or expose weaknesses, right? So that you don't make catastrophic mistakes. And then the third one is you use our agents to design your entire model development lifecycle, generative AI rollout lifecycle. So all three are possible here. And if you're in the camp of GPT-4o, you can use that from here. If you're in the camp of Anthropic, you can use that from here. Llama, you can use that from here. And each of them have different level of accuracy and latency cost.
So I had asked earlier this question. When it chooses which agent to use, based on accuracy, relevance, whatever, how does it know, I can understand that it knows what the outcome is after getting all of the answers, comparing which one is the best and then showing it, right? Then the cost will be like 8 times if you have 8 agents. The optimal would be just use one agent that gives the correct answer. How does it know which agent
No,
to
it's not
choose?
doing a broadcast, right? So the planning is coming from the largest model.
Okay.
So our models are using Claude Sonnet. Our agents are using Claude Sonnet to do the big plans.
Okay.
So many people are doing lots of sub agents, right?
Okay.
What we are doing is actually a big brain agent with hopefully high fidelity. So the planning is done up front.
Okay.
Now, of course, as it's executing down the stream, we have a constant self-checking agent that's debunking the path.
Okay.
Right? And if you hallucinate it 14 steps above, it's able to go and say, you need to take a different path. Right? So it's constant feedback to the big brain planning agent, but the orchestration and actual execution is a lot of subtools, right? Call them tools in the space, or actually other agents which are well validated.
I see.
But it's still the grand plan is still one large agent right now. Others have done multi-agent systems where they have to resolve this problem.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But we found that was actually not super specialized stuff at the big brain level did not help us in getting good generalized performance. And this benchmark is a generalized performance benchmark, right? Sort of some, and in that, I think I've probably flashed this already, but on that one, basically, Manus AI unseated us recently, and the team shot back with super performance on that. It is the world's most accurate deep research tool you can get today, which is like today, right? It's a bold claim, but I think you can tell that we were on top of this benchmark for 2 full months, which has been very rare as well. But I think we have other things we're working on. 92%, as I mentioned, from bachelor's, master's, PhD students, 92%. I think that might be the upper limit of which is pretty good. You can hire a naive coder for a fraction of the cost.
How do people come up with that? So I was very surprised when you started coming up with the PhD level benchmarks, right? How do they come up with those PhD level research benchmarks?
It's a good question you asked, right?
Or is this outside the scope?
No, it's a good question. Like the interesting thing about that, there are two ways I would answer that question. One is actually this particular paper, right? The paper itself, right? This is actually a real problem, right? We can actually try this right now, right? Sort of is NASA in NASA's astronomy picture, right? Sort of this little level 3 problem. There was basically there were 2 pictures in an astronaut group, for the 2006 picture and 2023 picture, who was the smaller astronaut, right? Literally, it's a question that would take like half a day for some of us to research and find out, right? Trying to paste this.
Shift and something.
But this is the sort of thing we like revel in, right? Sort of actually, oh wow, okay, this is a hard problem. But I think the thing to think about in this is, right, sort of a lot of this stuff is and for deep research just basically runs it for max, right? And I think this is a hard problem. Or another problem is actually watch a 5-minute video with 300 plus penguins and few birds and ask for how many birds are there in this video. That's actually a live problem on YouTube, a YouTube video there, right? I ran Jensen's keynote and asked it to say how many times you used DeepSeek, for example, right? But I think that the net of it is just like, the reason I smile when you ask that question, now when you're training this AI, we actually asked the generative AI to come up with the next generation of hard problems, right? And it came up with a problem recently, looking at Mars rover pictures, and said a YouTube video of it, and count the number of rocks that are 10 centimeters or higher in diameter. Right. And that's the problem agentic AI came up with to test itself. Right? So if you think about synthetic data generation in this world, is actually asking it to come up with very, very difficult math Olympiad problems or very, very difficult problems of human observation, right? That will take half a day for us to solve. So this is kind of the right, sort of, the new world of how do you make generative AI or agentic AI even smarter.
In the context of capital markets and stuff, there was actually a question that had come up at an event a couple of days back. How good is generative AI at portfolio management, financial portfolio management? Because one is basically all text-based, generative AI, portfolio management is all quantitative. And it looks like it is actually better.
I think the thing is, it shouldn't be either or, right? a lot of us are mathematicians or physicists and English majors, right? So where it's good at English, right? So for example, generative AI makes a lot of data science and software engineering commodity. 88% of the code we are writing is now generated, right? Another way to think about it is a few years from now, just like handmade carpets, handmade code. All the projects before 2024 were handwritten code. In the future, you'll have generated code, just like the industrialization of software engineering, right? So it's no longer human generated. You'll have, oh, you'll probably label this like, oh my God, this is handmade code, right? It'll be like esoteric. But the most of code going forward is going to be auto-generated, right? Most of data science ahead is going to be auto-generated. We have something that should go in Kaggle contests and so on. Driverless AI automated a lot of ML. It's available as an agent in this. So you don't have to worry about either or. I mean, we do municipal bond pricing, fixed income liquidity and pricing. The markets are all using H2O's driverless AI, pricing of claims insurance, predicting wildfires, bushfires, right? Sort of, or one of our model predicted that Asheville is going to get flooded by hurricanes. We disbelieved it, right? Asheville is so high up in the mountains. So if you can use generative AI and predictive AI, why not? So it's not either or. And I think the combination of the two is just absolutely going to be super. I mean, you're right. Model portfolio selection. So how is Franklin Templeton using us? For selection of the security to invest in, is generative AI. But how much to buy, what price to buy, when to buy, that's predictive AI. It's the quantitative stuff. And businesses need both. I mean, we're going to hire people who are like both reasoning and logical, mathematical, quantitative, and qualitative. Let me show another interesting aspect of our use cases, right? So, I mean, I think some of you have seen this, right? So some of our customers have now officially stated for every dollar they spend, they made twice the amount last year, right? And they're now making that better by reducing. It's mostly GPT-4, big models. Now they're dropping the cost of that, so they're going to see 10x, right? Once they drop the cost for each model. The use cases are like not just one, right? Across the whole spectrum. And the companies that are able to take advantage of generative AI are the ones that have AI agility as a cultural aspect. The center of excellence that held back AI adoption in the past have yielded to the forces of pull, not push. So most of our sellers are not having to go and explain why you need AI anymore, right? Because there's a pull for it. And so as a result, like if you democratize AI within the organization, you can bring change faster. Otherwise, some of our customers are doing call center A/B testing. One call center has generative AI, another call center no generative AI, to see if these guys have faster resolution times or not. So they're no longer theoretical productivity exercise. Right? So it's, if it's not helping, then okay, show me the value. So I think the ROI of generative AI is being called for now, and that's where having fine-tuned digital models is very useful.
Here is a question, right? In terms of investment and returns, a lot of the investment was more in ML side. Generative AI was something that actually swept the whole market. And it looks like the lot of investment is going into generative AI now, not so much the ML world. Do you see jobs being available in the future more on the ML side, the traditional AI, or more a lot of the work that was done using traditional ML will be they'll try to migrate to generative AI and LLM based solutions, which is all text based, right? You can just use prompt and get your answer instead of having a $100 an hour or $200 an hour software engineer. So how do you see the market jobs evolving in AI?
I mean, there is a arbitrage, right, between now and the next 4 years, where most of the stuff we do is still employable. fundamentally, right?
There's also super legacy stuff that you can't even run because it's not because it's too old. I feel like a lot of this is because you have data, like existing data. What about things that you don't have data for?
Yeah, I think that's a good one, right? So if you don't have data, you have to use human intuition and wisdom, right? Or let's say music, right? You're trying to generate something completely new, and creativity and courage are still going to be very valuable, right? But going back to investments, let's say our own investments as H2O, 98% of what we do now is generative AI. 98, not even 20. Almost all our top coders, almost the entire company, for the last 2.5 years, have been only doing generative AI projects. And that's how we mapped out the space and say, okay, what are our core philosophies? Open source going to win. We said open source going to win against llama.cpp, LoRa. I built the first LoRa on this particular tiny computer. The challenge kind of say OpenAI saying nobody else can do this, right? I think that's triumph. You can say open source is winning. The other one is distill and fine tune. And we did Danube and Mississippi and with the distillation fine tune stuff has won, right? DeepSeek is only 1% less than O1, right, or O3, right? So when V3 is not so far behind kind of the Claude models, which means that you're essentially going to like open source, these still fine-tuned models, reasoning models, reinforcement learning, right? Then the third big one is safety in AI. It was important before with ML, it's important now. So that's we invest in all three and staff them accordingly, moved our predictive AI teams. Traditional AI is expert systems, right? Even older. But I would say predictive AI and quantitative, right? But quantitative stuff still produces a lot of value in the world. I don't think it's going to completely go out of fashion. In fact, the demand for it will increase once generative AI retrieval is great, right? But to do sufficient predictions from the data that you retrieve from a document data, let's say you take all the annual reports of all the Fortune 500 companies over the last 10 years, you extract the JSON from that using generative AI. We actually built our own document AI to do that. We're using LLMs, using SLMs even. But once you extract that, and what are you going to do? Put it in a table. Once you put it in a table, you want to do charts on it. You will use prompt to get the charts. You're not going to write a SQL anymore. That's fair and like very, very real. You're going to use ML to predict, but you're not necessarily writing from scratch a ARIMA model or a kind of a Prophet model. You're calling something that's automatic, or your automatic ML software has the right MCP that it's discoverable by generative AI. If it's not discoverable by a large language model, it's probably going to be on the sidelines. So all work. It's just like if you didn't have documentation before, you didn't have a website before, you need the MCP for it to be registered or discoverable by others, then that code will get executed. And if your code gets executed in an ocean of agents, then you get paid, right? And if you build the agent that is called by others, then that's revenue. As opposed to kind of saying, hey, I have all this kind of code base and talent, please find me. It's a harder problem. It's no longer traditional ways of distributing code as well. There are a lot of these things that change. Now, if you think fast, I mean, you're asking a fast forward question, right? In the future, physical AI is going to come in right away around the corner. So a lot of the physical packing, shelving, all these jobs are all starting to get slowly automated, right? Data science, white collar jobs, the easiest to automate, unfortunately or fortunately, right? That's where it starts first. But there's a whole slew of transformation that the economy is going to go through. The AI economy is going to be bigger than all the economies we built before. It's a wonderful time, but there's a lot of disruption in the interim. And that's a very different, how do you value work in the age of agentic AI? It's a very, very powerful question. How do you continue to keep the social equilibrium?
Exactly. Exactly.
And then we have, when we started this movement to make the world better, right? H2O started because we wanted AI to be ubiquitous like water to fight cancer. And so there are a lot of problems that we want to use AI for good to predict wildfires. We predicted LA fires, but it didn't help the citizens, right? Predicted the floods, we couldn't help them in time. There are a lot of problems in the world that are growing faster. COVID accelerated a lot of this, right? They're going to cloud or going to AI or rise of deglobalization, if you will. And all of that stuff needs sovereign AI. So what we have chosen as an open source sovereign AI, where you can own your AI as a company, as a country, as a city, as a state, or as a person, right? And that's the true long-term movement, where if you democratize, hope that 9 out of 10 people in the world will use it for good, right? And if it gets super smart, it will be the force for good itself. So that's kind of the long-term vision we're playing out here. But it's clearly an arms race, right? So let me show another demo here. And I know there's a couple of. I'm not on Chime anymore, I think.
You're there.
So this one is actually not recording, it's from my phone. Right? So,
this is the mobile app.
Yes.
So I say, how should a portfolio manager use generative AI for selection assets? I'm sure you've seen this demo a few times before, but not like this, right? So we go completely offline. And the idea is that we're trying to personalize LLM for you on your local device, right? So this is a model that's essentially your model, belongs to you, and runs locally. So your as it says right at the bottom, your it remains yours, right? None of your stuff is leaving your phone. And I think this is the beginning of the on-edge model. This is a model we built from 6 billion tokens. We have a 2 billion parameter model, we have a 1 billion parameter model, half billion, 4 billion parameter models, right? So these are same thing. Right? How should AWS partner with H2O AI, right, to help banks? Again, now it's a half a billion parameters. It's going to be less accurate, but much faster, right? The latencies matter when it's fast. Now, if you fine tune it on your content, on this particular partnership content, it's going to get really good, right? And so it's fast. And the fine tuning, you got to continued upkeep, right? So if sellers are thinking, oh, it's not going to sell GPUs, no, you got to continued upkeep every week, every month. But it's custom, it's purpose built, it's your asset as a company, right? And of course, beyond that, I mean, actually, there's a DeepSeek model as well, right? Distilled, fine-tuned DeepSeek model that you can use, right, for reasoning. But I think beyond that, I would say we are kind of working on all the agentic AI demo we saw earlier. You can actually run it from the phone, right? So it's no longer kind of either or. Right? So I think customers are going to use it where it's easy to use it from. And the deep research problems, they can all be driven from here. So this is actually kind of where the future is, right? The edge, on the edge devices, on the edge models. This is actually how we expect customers to drive.
Do you find the DeepSeek libraries more lightweight to use on the mobile?
So for reasoning models, right? So there are two things. So the DeepSeek is open source AI, right? And it uses a very simple trial error to reward models to improve itself, right? So it's much more easier to train it as well because it doesn't need ginormous amount of data. It uses more tokens, but doesn't have to use more compute. Like one of the fallacies is that more tokens is more compute. Probably not. The other one is it's actually super lightweight. The paper is so well written that if I were to teach AI today, I would start with that paper and start like building on top of it. It's better written than Llama, right? Papers. So it's designed, it's written for future enthusiasts to improve DeepSeek, right? Sort of revealing every piece, and then they open source more. They had a week of open source. They open source all the file systems they used, all the below CUDA layers that they used. DeepSeek is, I would call it, it's the Doge for GPUs, Department of GPU Efficiency, right? It's really transformed when it exposed the laziness and the fat that picked up because of overcapitalization and hype in the valley, in the US at large. If Jeff Bezos were going to start an AI company, he would build it like DeepSeek because he was from hedge funds, right? And he would build it like them. They essentially mimicked some of the original innovators from the valley and of 10, 20 years ago to kind of replicate the same kind of hunger and foolishness of open source.
There's still that issue of the availability of GPU and the the right sizing. Do you think Bezos would go into that the, the platform setup that could make that easier in terms of giving you the right GPU?
Sizing the GPUs?
Yeah, GPUs, right sizing and making that GPU available at the right time for that particular.
Could you be more clear?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that's something that's on the horizon.
Matching the right size of the
Yes,
GPU for the right problem?
Yes.
I think Run AI and a few others have been trying to do this. VLMs are doing, and I think NVIDIA announced Dynamo project, right? Which is basically trying to do pre-fill caching. So it turns out we didn't do simple things like caching, right? Pre-filling, right? If you're asking the same question again, we're rerunning the generation again. It's good for GPU companies if you rerun it. It's not good for the customers, right? Because the cost of tokens is burning, right? Yeah. So I think that's just if let's say in 3.8 greater than 3.11, it reruns it all over again. But if I ask that question 100 times, you should just be caching it and responding. So I think that kind of simple things have not been done. So that's one, right? Second one is while we claim that Hopper is no longer useful, you can give it away. Many of my customers, like in the poorer nation, who are doing sovereign AI, do not have access to the largest machines, or they don't have the capital, right? And so for them, small models are a gift, right? And so, I mean, I ran on device here, right? Earlier, it's not using a GPU on the phone. I mean, there is a GPU on the phone, but it's like really, really, really tiny, right? So the idea is that we can throw machines at the problem. Is always good at the early phase of the discovery. So most of my customers last year did not care about cost, but this year they don't want to spend $1 billion with GPT-4o on Azure. Much rather, they want to reduce the cost. So cost efficiency became more of a game this year for many of the customers. And if the economy tightens, then that'll become even more important. And that's why every analyst is talking about SLMs this year.
Yes.
Right? We didn't get any air when we talked about it last year. Right? Nobody even wanted to cover Mississippi other than China, which is actually because they were also hungry. They didn't have access to big GPUs.
Right.
But yeah, to your point, the commodification of GPUs is going to happen as well, right? So hopefully there's a flood in the market and everybody has access to small boxes, right? You can innovate even faster. But matching the right size of GPU, I mean, if you're using agentic AI, you need a large model, V3 or Sonnet 3.7, 3.5 to 3.7, there's difference in accuracy, right? And yesterday, 19 hours ago, Gemini released another great model that will make things easier to build on top as well. right? So this is like continuous. As the models get better, the frameworks like ours will start losing their value. So we have to continue to innovate. And that means we're going to go closer into the domain. Domain specific agents
Yeah.
are still going to have some value for a little while. Data used to be very valuable, right? But turns out synthetic data, like when there's a query I can ask, right, which will basically say, create synthetic data that mimics. Let me show that interesting question, right? Which is like take the Walmart data online, like so use Kaggle's Walmart weekly sales data and create a synthetic clone, right? Copy that can be shared and is anonymous, right? So that's actually an agentic problem now, right? So if you make that an agent, so that like making synthetic data, that's very valuable as well, right? And that used to be a company before, right? Like synthetic data generation used to be a small group of AI companies, but now this actually goes finds the Walmart weekly data set from a Kaggle or leaked on the internet somewhere, and now it takes that and then makes a synthetic copy. Now you have a data asset yourself.
Yeah.
Nice.
The use cases are just like, as you can see, the use cases are just left to the imagination of an AI engineer or a data scientist. And going back to your question, data scientists will morph into AI engineers. A lot more of the new profile of our own successful SEs and field engineers are fresh grads who are hungry to learn and tinker and not afraid of trying a few things, have basic computer science skills and some skills in data, not the so we in fact in Asia we did an experiment. Instead of hiring Kaggle grandmasters, we only hired Kaggle masters, and we are seeing very different results there in terms of customer engagement. Kaggle masters usually are, most people know Kaggle, right?
Oh yeah.
So we
science
have home to the 25 of the like top Kaggle grandmasters, 5 former world number ones, right? And most of them are like most of them are actually producing good work, right? So let me say, I mean, when I say good work, they have built models at a fraction of the cost of DeepSeek, right? So they're not afraid of competing with like the research paper. They probably put my name as an honorary name, but these guys built the model with just 5 people, right? Like corresponding model building teams, corresponding Gaia benchmarking teams of Microsoft have 50 people in them, or sometimes 200 on Gaia. Right? Sort of H2O teams are like absolutely like there's a Microsoft team here, and they basically the number of people competing in that is just like unbelievably large. This is deep mind that we're lying fun. Let's see, maybe
Just throwing money at the
Huge.
problem.
They throw money, but there's also a lot of it's it's less it's less agile because
I think cost is event. So innovation speed, innovation dollar efficiency is going to be a long-term mode. It's a long-term mode.
It's almost like that baseball thing, right? Like using. So here is the other interesting.
But the reason I was saying Kaggle masters and grandmasters,
Correct, versus
so the Kaggle masters are software engineers who love data, right? Or data science. They're actually equally proficient in software and data. I mean, people must know the difference between a geek and a nerd, right? A nerd is a physicist, right? And so the nerd geek quantity, it's kind of like how much protein and carb you want. So I think that's kind of the level of kind of the mix. And the right mix of software engineering skills allow you to use generative AI to finish the agent fully, right? So they're actually able to help customers more. A lot of our customers themselves are building agents or frameworks. A year or two later, they're finding maintaining, keeping this up to date with the pace of change happening is a little hard. And that's where we come in, right? We're continuously like on this path, right? Where we get shot and we take the bullets and continue to innovate. That's the place a lot of innovation. That's why they're choosing H2O or other frameworks.
So here is the other aspect, right? Other way of looking at it. Um, you are looking at people going from ML to LLM, which is basically prompt engineering. How long do you give?
No, but prompt engineering is dead, right?
That's basically where I was coming. Where do you see this? How long
No,
do
we're
you
not.
think
So
prompt
my
engineering?
prompts are usually one word,
Okay.
not even 3 words. I love you is long. Love is enough, right? So we actually literally, most of my prompts, even on Claude, are like, not even, I don't even ask what about as a deep seek or what about this, right? I was actually doing some analysis on all alternative like places, right? And you just ask what about, right? You don't even, so prompt tuning, which is an ML function behind the scenes. So H2O team came up with a ML that takes prompts and generates good prompts. Takes one word prompts and generates good. Prompt tuning made prompt engineering already obsolete.
Okay.
So that's no longer, but actually knowing what is good, attention to detail of something very elaborate is still valuable. Let's say, so experienced engineers, experienced software data scientists, experienced bankers, experienced portfolio managers, they're not going to get obsolete because they know the detail, the what. And if you know the what, experienced salespeople, right? Since we have them here, or marketeers, or they know what is awesome. They've seen what is really great. So then for them, they're designing it. So the product manager of today is responding with a GitHub MVP, no longer a Figma diagram, because he's designing, he's describing the specification, and the agent is building the MVP for them. And so a kind of an okay version of the product is buildable from just deep description of the product. So that changes the role of product managers to product makers, right? But then the advanced guys now need to add value by making it robust, resilient, scalable, bulletproof from attacks or hallucination, infosec, all of that stuff, right? That takes work. So that's where the role of the super engineers is going to go, right? But the vast majority of the naive engineers, how do they get in? That's an interesting phase. So we're picking them now so that in 5 years they'll be superstars. You look at the DeepSeek team, most of them are fresh grads, 2 years or into it. And the average cost of software engineers in China is about 5 times cheaper than in India, not in the US. In the US, about 10 to 100 times cheaper, depending on which Google engineer you're talking to. But um, China's software engineering salaries have hit floor. They're on par with a Filipino engineer, which means it tells you what's the future. The future is absolutely going to be agentic, and so you need to use talent and time very, very wisely, right?
That's what it is. That's really you know you
And groom. I mean, groom the talent, right? So some of our we had a Singapore team at our GTC booth. Most of them are like, wow, like half our age and able to do more, twice as much. Right? Because it's energy, right? And I think bringing them into the levels of pairing them up with your superstar, highly experienced sellers or marketeers or software architects is the best way to kind of build the next generation of talent.
So again, not to monopolize, please.
Yeah, so like I do have a question right there. So there's like so for most like startup founders, they do agree on like roughly around 75% or 90% of the code is generated by like LLM or AI. And there's all these like vibe coding. But I'm really curious about like like is one of the milestone of H2O like being like overtaking Google? Because like there's less people going on to Google and search things, blah blah blah. There's all these AI coming. Would that be one of the milestone right here?
I think, I mean, so when we started the company, right, TensorFlow was closed source. A lot of the R kind of work was being built, Google had most of the machine learning algorithms we built later in open source, right? But they were refused to be open at the time. As a result, we chose basically, right, open source and started building. But the real AI company to beat, in my view, is actually Google. Absolutely. That's why we split as a community. We split OpenAI or Transformer teams, or some teams that survived, that went back later. All of those folks, or even Anthropic, are former Googlers, right? So the splits have helped democratize some of the AI knowledge. But when Google won the search engine wars, it acquired every AI talent possible. All the other companies were absorbed by Google, right? And some by Amazon, but mostly by Google. But I think fast forward, we had to wait 10 years to start the next AI movement. Some of us were in AI in the mid-90s, right? So we waited that social network revolution to really start company with data and big data. Then we had another wave to start AI. And now, if you think about what the companies to beat, I don't think it's going to be as challenging someone earlier, right? So that the future of AGI may not happen in the US.
You think there's nothing like collaboration in between or?
No, closed source, right? How many venture capitalists, how many folks would give you a blank check saying, go build this, we'll find out. If you build AGI, right, they should give you a blank check because you're going to go transform the whole planet, right? But they will ask you for what's the business model here? What is open? Can you do it in open source? It doesn't make sense. You don't make money. So there's not a single public company out there that's open source. And in China, it's mandatory to make all AI open source right now. It's not an option. If you don't have an open source model, you're not allowed to work on AI most of the time. There are 9,600 open source projects in China, and maybe 960 or 600 of open source projects in the US. And eventually, as evidenced by Linux, open source will triumph. There's no just stopping that, right? So I think unless we really reinvest in open source in the US, we will be fine.
It's also probably because their government controls everything, and our government kind of tries to allow people to privatize stuff.
That's right. I mean, our $500 billion, they give to 500 universities. I bet you will build AJ faster than giving it to the one company that you think may do it.
Yeah.
So those doesn't, those doesn't have.
It's regulatory capture, right? It's like Epic in healthcare. You're trying to do that with regulatory capture of AI, and that's going to fail, like in a grand way.
So cutting costs is not going to be the direction. Cutting research.
I think universities do need more. Why is so? Google was supposed to be the Bell Labs of our time, right? And I watched Google. I played soccer with 11 people of Google, right? The early teams. So it's a phenomenal culture. It gave us driverless cars. We talk about Google Maps, right? And so no question, right? Transform the planet in very powerful ways. But I think what it did not do, I mean, to eventually start doing it is bring open source and kind of, so Gemini is a great example of open source. I think it did not become the Bell Labs of our time, which New Jersey and New York did with AT&T back then. So I think what that means that all great computer science research is not happening in the university, it's happening in the industry because of the capital, because of infrastructure. Unlike DARPA, which came from the universities. AI started in the universities, but it's not fostered. The full-fledged AI is not being made in public domain. I think open source is our only public domain, which means that we need to kind of essentially balance the two. But I think where the applications of AI are going to be even more interesting is in biosciences and pharma and life sciences, where hallucination is a feature, not a bug.
Drug discovery.
Yeah, you need to try a lot of different things and then throw away bad things, and then some things will work. And I think in there, we're not trying enough ideas. We're limited by the amount of imagination of the human mind. I think generative AI will come up with many different variations much faster. And then if you play AlphaFold to its full usage, you'll find cures for some of the most intractable problems on the planet. One of our another shout out for one of our makers, Carol Grandmasters, right? Ryan, he came up with he solved a 2,000-year-old puzzle, the Vesuvius problem of papyrus, right? Ink on papyrus. How do you read it? And I think one of the interesting things he did was everybody else was trying to unroll the papyrus and read the ink. He actually did a deep learning model that read the ink in situ in 3D, right? And he managed to solve the puzzle.
He was doing okay. I remember reading that. I did not know this.
Right. So Ryan came up with the idea of not trying to do it two-dimensional, but
Cool
solve it in
stuff.
three-dimensional,
Cool stuff.
right? Now imagine that looking for cancer cells on a human organ, right? That's the same application. So I think creativity is still a premium, right? And the courage to do something with it, right? Essentially, intelligence is ubiquitous, which means agency becomes valuable. People who have the courage to do something about or use AI to solve a customer problem, they are still scarce. So surprisingly, courage is still a scarce resource. I think your question was about like the 88%, 90% code. The 10% debugging of that complex code still takes a lot of work and tools.
And there's also a lot of hallucination. So
Yeah, the bugs.
fact check, U-test.
The real bugs in there. I think code, I mean, 3.7 is way better than 3.5 on it. It's still the most, still the best tool we found. Poolside and Codium and some of the other like sort of code companies are razor sharp focused on that, right? Sort of trying to build the end to end of deploying and testing code. The test code is easy to build. Step one. If you have good test code, then you can at least catch these bugs faster or at least iterate faster. Iteration speed is what's really, it doesn't have to generate the entire code base every time you rebuild the model, right? Rebuild the software artifact. It's a bit of a token inflation happening there. I think there's like, how can you iterate additively the way human engineers will do? I think that's something we've not finished yet. Have you used Claude Desktop?
No, like currently Cursor, it's for the trend.
Yeah, Claude Code is interesting, right? It's a little hard. I just pulled up Replit for that reason, right? But I think the Claude Code being able to kind of use it's a command line tool, right? So in Claude Desktop, we use MCPs, well-designed agents to build them and make them well documented. I think that's probably going to be a good marketplace of revenue for future startups. How do you design your startup as an agent? Like HR agent. Like, I mean, most of IT will be managing AI employees, right?
It's like building up a PM or a CTO.
Yeah.
And then it'll just MC for you.
Yeah, I think basically the R1 traces for different problems that you're doing, right? Whether to fundraise or whether to pick the right PC or the right customer, right partner, all of those decisions you're doing, if you ask R1 to do the same and look at traces, I think that gives you a valuable asset, yeah.
So will it be AAAS, agent as a service?
Yeah, agents as a service, but also discoverable agents, right? And domain specific agents.
I want to go back to your point earlier. So about you just started mentioning, but we moved on to other things where things that actually observe skilled professionals, agents that observe closely. In a world where there is digital footprints everywhere, how you think is the only thing that's not still discovered. So you have these brain implants too. That is the final frontier, I think. But not even going there. If you can trace people's behavior, you can essentially create a digital twin, and you could, in theory, like, Warren Buffett will never die. He will basically be able to keep investing, and you will suddenly have this whole monopoly game kind of thing where one person, the smartest investor, can own the whole world, right? So in terms of agents, do you see that as basically the direction where if it is observing professionals, experts closely, you can end up having a digital twin where you don't even need the master because the copy is better than the master?
Yeah, I mean, I think like one of the projects that got me fired up on AI was trying to build a digital Einstein. Digital Einstein, like exactly right, because as a physicist, you love to see what would Einstein think about this problem, right? Of course, in the 90s, there was not enough NLP to solve that problem very well. Right? Fast forward to now, I had the pleasure to meet Ajit Jain, right?
Yes.
At the said company, Berkshire. And he basically, I said to him, like, back then when I was in my idealism, I wanted to mimic Einstein. I feel like it's very hard to do it, impossible to do it almost. But then digital Warren, on the other hand, is probably possible, right? So because of all the million, because he's actually documented himself so much to share all the statements. What would Warren Cliff pay for this particular problem? What would he say? How would you, like a lot of people were worried why he's in cash position right now, actually, right? It's an interesting question. When everybody else is in stock, he was in cash just as elections were finishing, right? So it was, he does have the last laugh on that topic, right? So, and his response to the new government was, please don't hit the dollar, right? Which is like why would he even say that, right? So, but things like that, which absolutely wisdom,
Smart.
wisdom,
Yeah.
basically.
Pure.
So knowledge to wisdom. Yeah.
What is the definition of a degree holding human in this, or used in these graphs? Like, is it like,
So PhD and masters and bachelors.
No, actually, it's well, sorry, in the Gaia benchmark, right? It's well documented. There's basically English speaking. Do you have a paper? Yeah. It's
It's a subject matter expert.
no, actually, bachelors, masters, PhDs. They actually describe who they used in the blind test. By the way, this is actually we get to look at validation. It's really blind, real, like Kaggle-like test, right? The test scores are who they are, but I think they literally have the composition of the different problems and who did it, and they got 450 people or so to come up with these like these tasks as well. So it's just the.
so it's all based on a Gaia paper,
Sorry?
the GAIA paper?
Yeah. It's based on the generalized AI assistant benchmark. To give you an idea, last year we were 14 on this, right? And we couldn't answer even one of the level 3 question. So when we set out this goal in first Gen AI event we did, we were just moving the entire team to Gen AI. We sat down at the night at the end of the event and we said, let's do the Gaia benchmark, that underground bar in San Francisco. And we said, wow, Gaia benchmark, that'll be super hard. And literally the best score at the time and is actually 9, right? So, and 0 of the level 3. So it took a while for the whole space to emerge and us to like have the courage to continue to improve this one. Right? But it's still, yeah, I think there's actually somewhere search for bachelors. Yeah, that's the background. So this is the
Yeah, there we go.
population.
I see.
So that's actually.
Oh, I just want to just do a quick time check. So we're going to start our last segment of the day in 10 minutes, and I want to make sure we get a break before then. I want to make sure you get through all of the things that you wanted to present today.
Did you need Ashraf? He's also on the line, or I think we covered everything we want to, right?
Yeah, I think I mean we also had a plan to present cyber stuff, but I think we can when we're seeing like anything you need to do investigative, like AML, like some of the use cases, for example, right? Use cases of of AI, right? So for AML, KYC, for HR, RFP, document AI, right? Sort of, we have a very strong customer base in banking and right, sort of retail banking. You're beginning to see a lot more business banking use cases, right? Cards, payments. insurance. AWS has a very strong portfolio of insurers. They were our earliest customers as actuarians. Now with Document AI, they're able to kind of use the power of this for claims. And that's kind of some of the top use cases that I want to just cover, so that it's not left kind of this is no longer a experiment, right? These are people are producing value using. Any other Q&A, happy to take now or later as well.
Like on your perspective, like, do you think the AI overtaking white level is going to happen on 2045, things like that? Like, what's the vision on that year?
So one of the primary goals when I started the company in 2012 was, people would ask me what is the TAM of the space, and say in my Series A or seed presentation, I remember ended very abruptly and saw the slide 2 trillion in 22, right? They said, great, thank you. I remember the VC or name. So it's over. Over. Okay, great. Good luck. Right? Was that famous guy actually? It's interesting. The nose teach you a lot. Then I came and 22 came by, 2 trillion looked like a small number, about the same. We think that, and then I kept telling NVIDIA and others with Jensen that crypto looked tiny compared to AI, and that got him excited to invest in us. Today, we've used about $100 trillion, and I think now that became a market standard, everybody's saying it's $100 trillion. I think the AI, in 2020, we had a quote that $1 billion companies will be created. Right? I think that was, I looked at the actual quote, it said $1 billion companies. By 25, others will start believing this. Right? So now universally people think it's possible. I think I met two $1 billion companies. All I know for a fact. One of them was actually an investor in our round. He was lucky. He left Goldman Sachs and he started. He's a billionaire in hedge funds. So then that's one thing. The DeepSeek model tells you that you don't have to be a software vendor to make money out of AI. Right? So there's new business models for AI. You can predict the future. Why not print cash, right? So the second one is going forward. The 100 trillion looks like understatement, because we're going to absolutely reinvent the planet with the best companies in AI. It's like AI is eating hardware. AI is eating cloud. We pick a cloud based on which AI it has. AI has changed SaaS, right? So all SaaS companies, that's a very large section of companies waiting to be disrupted with prompts. And then you have AI essentially going onto the edge and devices and robots, right? So not just humanoids, but robots. So you're beginning to see that complete transformation of the economy with AI. So I don't expect software engineers, data scientists, the disruption is happening now. So 2030 is what I would expect some of these big changes to already happen. It don't have to be, the definition of AGI keeps changing, right? But there is a land grab to be done, knowing what we know now. Knowing what, like we predicted COVID run for 3 years, right? And knowing that, you could do a lot of things, right? So, of course, I only buy H2O stocks, so I don't actually, I only own that, right? So that's what I represent. But for the rest, absolutely, the disruption is very open and present. Use H2O's deep research and chart the map, and you can absolutely be. The world needs 1 million billionaires and more women billionaires, by the way, right? Because health equity is absolutely shocking, right? It's the lack of gender, right? So, we don't do enough research on women health. I can't imagine why. We spend 1% of our spend on women's health. We don't know a lot about it, which is crazy, right?
That's true. I can attest, right, Carrie? Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, it's shocking. It's shocking. All of us were born to women, right? But we have no idea how any of that, right? Apparently, one year delay in menopause can increase lifespan by 10 years. And they just found out. It's not even well known. Right? It should be on every billboard, right? But my point is that 50% of the world is under insured, under employed, under right, sort of not enough research on making their lives better. And I'm not talking about too many other things. I'm just talking about just people, right? But the need to democratize AI, democratize health, which is the only wealth, really, and to democratize access, opportunity, and capital is present now. The tools are here. You can not use the tool, continue to do life as it was before, and the disruption is going to hit you regardless. So I think it's a great time to use the world's best deep research tools and chart the course that will make you where you want to be in 5 years. A better you, if you understand that, so better you. I think that's kind of the biggest opportunity waiting for all AI aware folks right now, including the folks in this call and on this table, right? And I think use that to literally be what you need to be or want to be today, because what you seek is also seeking you.
So Sri, if it's okay, let's take first I want to thank you very much. We're going to shift gears. Let's take a 5 or maybe 10-minute break. So 5 minutes after the hour, come on back. I'm going to set up things a little bit differently. I know that you and Guhan have already talked a lot. We've recorded a lot, but we're going to have yet another conversation that's going to be viewed by a different audience. So we'll set up over here. We're gonna set up.
So I'm gonna have to.
I'm not sure if.
Where are non like presenters?
Well, just
this side.
Yeah, this side. Yeah,
Right.
but only you two. Yeah, only you two.
This side. All right, I'll move forward.
And I'm gonna set everything up, and then we'll begin the last section of the day.
Did not know that. First of all.
Well, for this conversation, but now the next one we can.
Be the solution.
Yeah, 5 after.